The Ukrainian president, target number one in his words, he's reportedly dodged 3 assassination attempts since Russia invaded last week. Times of London reports a Russian-backed mercenary force is on the ground in the hunt for him, and Dan Hoffman knows all about this. Former CIA chief of station, Fox News contributor. Dan, welcome to our coverage, and thank you for being here today. Let's talk about a couple of different groups. This is the Wagner Group. What do you know about them based on what they have done in the past? Let's start there.
So the Wagner Group, established years ago, mercenaries, not directly attributable to the Kremlin, but they're financed by Yevgeny Prigozhin, who runs that internet research agency that interfered in the U.S. elections and was disclosed by the Mueller investigation. It gives Vladimir Putin a little bit of non-attribution, even though we know that he's really running the show when it comes to these guys. They've been very active in the Middle East as well as North Africa, and now they're in Ukraine hunting for President Zelenskyy.
How good are Zelensky's people? I mean, it seems remarkable that he was able to have a press conference yesterday. He popped up on camera several times yesterday.
So they're good. I have no doubt that Russia infiltrated Ukraine weeks, maybe even months before their invasion with the Wagner Group, with Chechen mercenaries to try to find Zelenskyy. But what Zelensky's team has done, his intelligence officers and his security, they've made keeping him alive obviously their highest priority, and they're able to detect the threats. They're conducting human operations. Sources are telling them where the threats are, and they're preempting those threats before they materialize. And I can't highlight enough why Zelenskyy is a target for Vladimir Putin. He wants to decapitate the government, install Russia's own puppet. He knows that Zelenskyy is mobilizing international support, roughly $15 billion worth of that already making its way to Ukraine. And secondly, Vladimir Putin's trying to own the information space. Truth, as we know, is the first casualty of war. Zelensky's out there on social media calling it as it is, while Vladimir Putin is trying to lie his way out of all the atrocities that his army is committing in Ukraine.
Okay, based on that, he is target number one. You just mentioned the intelligence coming in. This Russia Federal Security Service, that's their leading intelligence group, right? There's reporting that the Ukrainians are getting information from people inside the service. Well, that would obviously be Russians. Is this common? I would guess not under Putin's rule. What do you make of that, Dan?
So that's the FSB, and let's remember, Vladimir Putin was the director of the FSB before he became prime minister. That's their ruthless security service responsible for repression of Russian citizens at home and then work in former Soviet states like Ukraine. I looked at that reporting. It was from Ukraine, so I'm thinking there's a little bit of influence as well as inform at play there. The Ukrainians know Vladimir Putin ran the FSB, that the director of the FSB, Bortnikov, is Vladimir Putin's key advisor, arguably the most important one, along with the former director of FSB, Bortnikov, who's now his national security advisor. I think that might have been a little information off from the Ukrainians at Vladimir Putin that, hey, your guys, they're not so reliable. Now, whether that's true or not true, that's another matter. My guess is, though, that the Ukrainians had other ways of collecting that intelligence.
Dan, Putin is cracking down on his own people in Russia as they start to see their economy implode, and many of them are not on board. Thousands have been arrested for even just protesting this war. Senator Graham tweets this: is there a Brutus in Russia? Is there a more successful Colonel Stauffenberg in the Russian military? The only way this ends is for somebody in Russia to take this guy out. You would be doing your country and the world a great service. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'll be honest here. If Senator Graham were here, I'd tell him I wish he hadn't said that, because Vladimir Putin is going to use that against us and say that the spies are out searching to hunt him down now, and that could be an excuse for Vladimir Putin to further repress his people. What I would say, and it's a nuance here, but what I would say is that this ends when the Russian military stops taking orders from the KGB operative in the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin, when they decide that they can no longer commit war crimes against innocent Ukrainian civilians. That's when this stops. At least that's what I would argue. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that some insider in Moscow decides Vladimir Putin isn't up to the task, but that's kind of a separate topic.
Dan, you get terrific information here. One last question. You heard the member of parliament with us a few moments ago saying that these Chechen mercenaries are holding, I guess you could say, the workers at the nuclear plant hostage in order to make sure the nuclear plant still operates. What do you know about the mercenaries out of Grozny in Chechnya? What do we need to understand about that group?
So Vladimir Putin prosecuted a totally unjust war full of war crimes and atrocities against Chechnya. I can tell you, I've been to Grozny, and he leveled it, just like they leveled Aleppo. But he did what Russia has done throughout their history, is he made a deal with a local strongman, Kadyrov, who was the head of Chechnya. And in return for giving Chechnya some degree of autonomy and economic freedom, Kadyrov's mercenaries are at Putin's beck and call. And when Putin needs to send some hitmen someplace to go fight, whether it's Syria or in Ukraine, Kadyrov's guys go ahead and do that. It gives Putin a little bit of a degree of non-attribution. He could say that, this wasn't me, these are Chechens, and that might, suit Vladimir Putin, but we all know the truth. Vladimir Putin is just a purveyor of lies and disinformation, and this is what, tragically Ukraine is up against. Unimaginable that Chechens would be holding Ukrainian scientists hostage at gunpoint at a nuclear power plant that Russia attacked. I can tell you that in our military, and I served in war zones, we put a big red line around civilian infrastructure, nuclear power plants. We would advise our U.S. military of these places so that we'd be sure not to conduct strikes against these places, and Russia is doing it deliberately.